back to the Pro Series podcast. This is episode 124 with Justin Abe. He comes from a long line of architects and builders. We talk about that, how he was in that world for a while and then got into real estate. He's a co-founder in a couple companies. He's a managing partner in Pinnacle Community Capitals. So we talk about a bunch about real estate investment, architecture, building, so much going on in this episode. So please stay tuned. But before we get into this episode, please like, subscribe, and review this podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts. And now I hope you enjoy episode 124 with Justin Abe. Justin, thank you so much for hopping on the Pro Series podcast on this Saturday morning. Glad to have you on and can't wait to talk to you about your experience in the design industry, but also get into some multifamily investing question.
Of course. Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be with you here.
Yeah, I first want to jump into your background. You have a very interesting background from design to investing, but let's start from the very beginning. Were you in a family that was in building or investing, or how did you get that bug and want to get into it?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a family of designers and builders. My grandfather was an architect, all the way back to my first ancestors that moved to the US. My great 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 grandfather was a mill architect in North Carolina. And my dad was a builder, and he was on the forefront of kit homes, what we would call uh, modular homes or yeah, kit homes, and back in the 80s. And I used to go visit the job sites, and they would essentially manufacture these homes in the factory and bring them to the site and assemble them all in one day. And so, some of my earliest memories are on the job site, seeing these homes built in no time. And then as I grew, got older and into high school, I sort of joined the family business with them, and helped build and remodel, do fix and flips and ground up builds. My father and grandfather were doing it sort of as a side business, passion project, a way to bond, and so they got me involved, and I got to go out and dig trenches and for the footings of houses. And then I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for design school. And while I was in design school, Savannah was going through a major real estate boom at the time. And there was all these old Victorian houses, some of them around Forsyth Park and just around downtown. So I was remodeling these huge mansions with a team, and doing all the finish carpentry for them. Um, so that kind of put me through college, and I studied furniture design and minored in sculpture. And so I've always been in design, build, construction, real estate. I then moved out to the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area of California, to pursue my design career. And I've done everything from design engineering to project management, up into being the director of product development for wholesale and retail furniture companies. And all along the way, I was still doing real estate on the side, doing the investing thing. And then just recently left that job, after spending a few years getting into multifamily real estate.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did I read this right that you participated in a lot of flips with your family, but flips as in already demoed existing homes, and they were come from the ground up builds?
Well, no, it was fix and flips, separately from ground up builds.
Gotcha.
So yeah, we would take dilapidated homes and remodel them and sell them. And then they had a few projects that we would build from foundation, right? So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're going back to your growing up, were you when you were helping your family with their business, is there a time that you were helping maybe your grandpa with the millwork or something that you got in love with the design part of it and kind of wanted to know that furniture was where I wanted to be?
I've always had an eye for design, for for color, for finishes, for that sort of thing. And yeah, I think when when you have family who's just focused on the business aspect of it, right, and doing things as cost effectively as possible, and not really thinking about the way things look. I got to step in and say, "Oh no, let's this I don't like this tile. Let's choose this one." I would go to Home Depot or Lowe's with my dad and be able to go and select some of those finishes um, and it really wasn't until I got to college that I realized that I was really good with design. It was the sort of the beginnings of that as I was going through and working with my family. But honestly, I went to design school without thinking that I was going to be in furniture, um, and realized that I was really good thinking three-dimensionally.
Mm,
And then in hindsight, really understand that it was in my blood. It's something that just goes back generations, and clearly it's a path of our family, right? So I fell in love with sculpture. They didn't offer that as a major in at Savannah College of Art and Design at the time, and I went to the next best thing, which was furniture design, and fell in love with it there, like instantly, right? And
yeah.
just knew that the I was good with tools and machinery and working with my hands, and it was clear that I was sort of standing above the rest
Mhm.
as I was going through my first class, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Um, yeah, and then it was just cultivated through design school and through working on houses and from there on, I just love design, right?
Yeah. I mean, Savannah, going into a design school, a lot of them don't. I mean, you're learning design from a very broad spectrum because obviously there's so many fields in design you go through. So it's really nice that Savannah has so much variety that you were able to find a furniture design part of their school to actually know what you're going to do. Because I mean, I
Yeah,
went to school for interior design, but they touch on a little bit of commercial, a little bit of residential. They dive a little bit into kitchen and bath, which is where I ended up. But a lot of people, you don't touch on any of the industry that you actually are going to go into or you're going to like, or you don't even know what's out there.
absolutely. Yeah, I think I went into a more specific field. There was a master's of architecture at Savannah, a 5-year master's of architecture that I thought about going through, and in hindsight, maybe should have, but it was much more broad.
Mhm.
In as you mentioned in the interior design field as well, um, and I did come away having a very specific skill set, which helps and hinders, I think, because there are only so many furniture companies that you can work for. So I did spend a few years, working for a lighting company, working for architectural metals, and sort of honing design engineering and project management skills, which really allowed me to get to a point where I was not just a designer, but I was an all-around businessman, right? So, um, and that really helped me get to the sort of upper echelons of furniture design and being the director of product development for a fairly large wholesale retail company, right? And
Yeah.
so it wasn't just that I had great design skills, but I knew the business side of things and really was able to offer those skills to the companies that I worked for. And it really kept things interesting as well, right? I think when you get into only designing, it can get monotonous sometimes, right? You need something to for your left brain and your right brain to sort of be in a symbiotic relationship, and And so it's something different every single day that the director of product development position offered to me, right? And my love for business and my knowledge in that area really went a long way because of all the experience I had leading up to being the director of product development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I kind of think the same way. I need to use both sides of the brain, the business and the creative side. But there's a lot of designers I know that only want to use the creative side and they're not good at business at all.
Hmm.
And they don't understand the whole point of us us-minded people that we have to use both sides or we don't feel fulfilled in our careers. And I mean, I've left jobs because of that because I don't get to use both sides, and you feel like it's Groundhog's Day over and over again of
Right.
just designing the same stuff all the time. That's something that I kind of wish school kind of teaches you a little bit of what path you want to go to because there are professions that you just strictly just design all day. You
Right.
sit in the cubicle and design all day, and there's ones that you have to do both.
Yep.
Um, and figuring that out, and it's kind of like you're figuring it out on your own. You're kind of blinded when you're going out of school and figuring that what path you want to go into.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it really depends on the company that you go work for, how big it is, how small it is,
Yeah.
how much they need a jack of all trades or someone very specific, right? I know a lot of architecture firms, large ones, where you sit and you design a bathroom in a building for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Or you work for a smaller company and you're doing everything, right? And so it really depends on the person, the designer. Some people just want to be creative, like you said. I think I'm a big picture person. I am analytical. I'm creative, but I get stumped in those both of those areas and need to move to one place and come back to the other. And that gives me the clarity that I need when coming back to those things, right? It's like
Mhm.
when you can't remember a name, and instead of thinking really hard about it for 5 minutes and not coming to you, if you let it go for an hour or 5 hours, or it comes to you in your sleep, or it comes to you in that moment when you're not thinking about it, it's that moment of clarity, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I want
Yeah.
to segue into multifamily.
Sure.
A lot of my guests on my podcast, a good majority of them, are starting out in a different profession. So they're like in IT, and then they kind of do a part-time position in design or real estate, and then they jump full force into that for full-time job. But you're kind of different because you were already doing investment since you were younger with the
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
But you went into design. When was that turning point, and what was your thinking of that turning point when you left the design world? I mean, I know you're still in the design world, but full time going into the investment world. What was your mind thinking then, and what was that turning point?
Yeah, it happened a few years ago. I helped cultivate a business from, about $2 million in sales to about $10 million in sales. And I was working for someone else. And, uh, I sat down at some point and realized that I would be slogging away my entire life for someone else. And that I was smart enough and driven enough and that I could pursue my own business, my own passions, my own career. Um, and at the same time, COVID hit and we were spending more time with our family. I have two boys, 9 and 7. We took a huge trip around the country in our old VW van and camped the whole way, and it was amazing. But I worked the whole time while I was there, right? And there were so many opportunities that were missed that we had to say no to them. It's just, we have to work. No, I have to work for the next 4 hours, and we walked away from that travel experience thinking this was amazing and we're so fortunate to be able to do that, but at the same time we missed a lot of opportunities. And as our kids get older and as our parents get older, we're sort of in this sandwich generation where we want to spend time with our kids, we want to spend time with our aging parents, but we have not enough time to do that, right? And so I decided that if I were to sort of take control of my time, which is, I feel like the most precious thing that you have, that I would be able to spend more time with my family, and be able to take the investments that I was doing and compound them and turn them into a legacy, right? So um, I did walk away from a design career a bit, but I really want to get back to it being a passion of mine instead of a full-time job. I think I lost a little bit of the passion for design. And at the time, I still love the design world. I still love beautiful spaces. I love traveling to beautiful spaces. I just want to get back to it being that passion where I'm building something to give away to someone, or designing a special project, or tying it into what I'm doing in the multifamily real estate world.
That's a another topic within itself, losing the passion of the actual industry. I mean,
Yeah.
this podcast I do as a passion project. It's a side gig that's not part of my full-time job. And I always say, people are like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, I love it because it's a passion. It's not, I don't have deadlines, I don't have all that stuff. But once
Hmm.
you add the deadlines and everything to it, it kind of diminishes kind of what you loved and what got you into it. And sometimes time away from that will bring you back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
So you're still going to do it on part time and do some stuff on the side with it?
Yeah, I'm very well planted in, the multifamily apartment investing space. I do have the idea of maybe taking the multifamily and the design and combining them into boutique hotels, right? Because it's a very similar acquisition process, underwriting process, but there's a large element of design to those, in turning them into sort of a branded boutique hotel.
Hmm.
So that's something that I see on the horizon. But I do get to exercise my design skills the uh, in the asset management side of things, where what we're doing is going in and essentially doing a long flip on an apartment building, right? Very similar to a flip on a house, but it's usually a 5-year horizon. And we're taking a dilapidated asset and turning it into something beautiful, and passing it on to someone that wants the stable income, right? So I do get to use those design skills to choose the paints and finishes, and some of the visual elements that we add to these assets.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you definitely left that industry, but you're still kind of in it.
Yeah,
All of
exactly.
those selections and stuff.
Yeah,
Multifamily investment is such a different topic than most of the topics I talk about. A lot of the real estate investors I have on are flipping single family homes.
right.
So this is a completely different topic. Give us a little information on the difference between the two, because obviously a single family home, you're working on it for 6 months or so. You're trying to get it as fast as possible back on the market.
Mhm.
Apartments, you can't do that. You're working on it for years on end, like you said. And then you're probably selling it to an investor or something for them to manage, or hire someone to manage, or so
Absolutely.
jump into that and kind of talk about that, because it might be a completely new topic to most listeners.
Yeah, sure. So what we do in multifamily is called syndication. Syndication is, we're buying large assets with high dollar values, and so we don't have enough resources to buy them outright, currently. And so what we do is we team up with a team called the General Partners, which multifamily differs in single family in that it's a very much a team sport. You can't do it alone, right? When you're flipping a house, it's a smaller project. You can manage that yourself. Um, with multifamily, you have acquisition specialists who are going out and talking to brokers. You have underwriting specialists who take all the numbers and crunch them and say, oh, yeah, this is a good deal, or no, it's not a good deal. You have asset managers who are the ones that actually manage the capital improvements of the project, or like the flip of the project. We hire out um, uh, management, the day-to-day management, property management of the assets. So they're dealing with the tenants, they're dealing with the leases, they're dealing with all the things day to day. The asset manager is the one saying, okay, we're gonna, we have so many leases coming up. We're gonna turn these units and put money into this, and we need to improve our lighting, and we need to paint the building, and we need to replace the roof, and we need to trim the trees, and so on and so forth, right? And then you have your investor relations capital raisers, and that's what I've stepped into. Is we invest our own money, but we also are raising money from passive investors, right? So everyday people like you or the next person who wants to have their money work for them passively can invest into these projects, and the returns are fantastic. You're usually looking at double digit returns, 16 to 22% a year on your money, right? And so over 4 to 5 years, you can double your money that you put into these projects, and it's done almost 100% passively. The only thing that really an investor needs to do is vet a team and vet the deal and make sure that they feel secure putting their money into that. And after that, they receive a quarterly dividend, and then they are also part of the an equity partner in the project, and so they receive equity payouts once the property is sold at the end, right? Um, and so the way that we operate these projects are, we're looking for value add. We're looking for uh, properties that are in C neighborhoods, or no, sorry, in B neighborhoods or A neighborhoods that are B and C assets. So what we're doing is repositioning them from being a C asset in a B neighborhood and turning it into a B asset, right? Or taking a B asset in an A neighborhood and repositioning it into an A asset. And really the projects that we're looking for are things that have been mismanaged, have deferred maintenance, and the rents have been stagnant for
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. And we're also looking for areas of growth in the country, right? So where people are moving, where rent is growing, where wages are growing, where the number of households are growing. And with those metrics, we know that there's going to be demand for apartments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, so once we identify one of these assets, there's a lot of course, that goes into it beforehand. But once we identify one of these assets, we put out the bids. We're all of our underwriting is conservative and is including things that to improve the overall community. So we account for improvements in safety, redoing the roofs if they need to, upgrading the units if we feel like they can garner a premium. And all of those updates that we make, it's not like single family where it's a comp-based system where your neighbor moves away suddenly and they sell their house for $100,000 less than it's worth, and now your house is worth less. With multifamily, it's valued by as a business, right? So the net operating income of the asset is what determines the value, right? And so if we're able to take an asset that hasn't been performing and improve it and increase the intake of money, or the net operating income, it's multiplied generally by 10 in the valuation of the property. And so what we're able to do is force the appreciation of the asset. over a 5-year period.
Mm.
Um, Usually the timeline for the project is first year of stabilization. What we're doing is making sure the units are filled. We're improving safety. We're doing the major capital improvements on the asset. And when we go in, the community sees that and they're like, "Oh, we love what you're doing. We feel safer. We love how bright it is here. We love that you're improving the property," and they then want to stay longer. And then as people leave, we turn the units, and improve them, remodel them, and then we're able to charge a premium for those remodels, and that just adds to the bottom line of the net operating income.
Yeah.
Um, and then, year 2 to 4 is really continuing that project, but it becomes more, a little bit more on autopilot, in that all the all the work's been done, and the property is cash flowing. And then we get to year 5, year 7, year 10, and that's when we start to think about selling the asset. And usually it's to maybe a family office or a hedge fund or something like that, that wants a very stable
Mm.
um, asset that they don't have to do all the improvements that we've done to it. All they're doing is maintenance.
Yeah, and it's proven by them because you know you've had it for 10 years or so. And it's
Exactly.
probably been
Yeah.
occupied by for like 8 years or so.
Right. Exactly.
So when it comes to you said you do them kind of all over the country. Going into the bidding phase of the renovations, um, I've been on the vendor side of this. So I've been in a situation where someone like you is renovating an apartment in the area and
Hmm.
they're specking out product that maybe they get a better deal on in Oklahoma, but in Pittsburgh they get a different fabricator or a vendor or a distributor could give better pricing on a different product. How
Hmm.
do you go about those type of situations? Because it's so easy to make it cookie cutter and say, hey, this building is going to, all these buildings are going to get the same exact materials from the same exact manufacturers. But when you go to a different location, you might be hurting yourself because the freight might be more expensive there. How do you go about that? Or is that not part of your position?
It's not quite part of my position. That's
Okay.
that's more the asset management side of things. I would help with, the whole team sits in on asset management calls, right? We're all part of it. We make decisions together, but ultimately the asset manager is the expert in some of those vendor management uh, areas. I do have a lot of experience in that. I've done a ton of vendor management over the years. A lot of it's been overseas, but some of it's been in the States.
Yeah.
In working in real estate, I've done vendor management, and so I do help with that a little bit, but it's generally the asset manager's role and responsibility, and they're really the experts in the multifamily side of things. I think really where you can stand out though is how you use those finishes that everybody else uses, but use them in a unique way, right?
Mm.
It really does stand out, from one apartment to the next, if you're able to get creative with the finishes that are available. You're dealing with the LVP flooring a lot, but if you're able to find a cool new color that brightens the space and really transforms an apartment and really allows people to want to live there, that stands you apart from the next person, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these designers or investment companies are dealing with their investment in the area that they live in. So it's easier to manage, it's easier to deal with.
Yeah.
They know the contacts. What is your advice on dealing with basically a foreign area of you doing business in, and kind of managing it and kind of knowing points of contact and all of that? Like, what is your advice on doing a job in a completely foreign area?
Yeah, so this sort of leads back to the team. We're always looking for boots on the ground in the area. That's usually going to be our asset manager or someone, an underwriter or acquisition specialist, someone that's there that can go look at the property, visit a unit, can get some eyes on the project. That's paramount. You have to have that. But as far as going into a different city and investing, a lot of research goes into that. I mean, a ton of research. Before we decide to go into a new market, we're looking at, you know, who's moving there, the rent growth, all the things that I mentioned earlier. Go into uh, our research, and then when we do identify a property, we're able to pull information on that property itself and understand where rents are,
Mm,
understand what's been done to the property, and where it could go, right? And so the team again is paramount in being able to go in. I'm in the Bay Area, but a lot of times we're working in the South and Midwest, and so we have team members that are there on the ground that visit weekly, that know the area inside and out, and know the assets.
yeah. Yeah, it's a completely different animal than
Yeah.
single family home. And it's
Yeah, I mean, a lot of some of the principles transfer, right?
yeah, same foundation basically.
It's just a bigger project. But that's, with a good team, you're able to accomplish a lot more, right?
Yeah, it's almost like a single family home. You could manage it on your own if you're skilled and you know how to subcontract and all that stuff. But like when you get to multifamily, it's almost you can't do it on your own.
Exactly.
It's impossible.
It's impossible,
Yeah.
really. Yeah.
Well, I want to finish on some advice you have for someone maybe struggling, and they're falling out of love with what they are doing and they want to fall back into it, or maybe they found another passion that they want to kind of segue into a new career. I know it's very hard and you're starting from zero. Sometimes they're at 30 or 20 years into their career and they're figuring this out. What advice do you have, or maybe something that you told yourself during your segue into your new position?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of lifelong learning. You will always have something to learn in whatever field you are. It's been, I've known the real estate world for a long time, but I've also learned a new skill in multifamily. That's been amazing and so much fun. So it has reignited a passion in me. I also think that, this is something that I'm trying to instill in my children, is that, you know, and something that we're not taught in school, that investing is so important, because if you can find something that you can invest in and grow your wealth and the money that you have, then you can do whatever you want
Yeah.
and feel free in doing that and pursue it as a passion instead of a career, right? um I think we get so stuck in well, one, wanting to find a field that we absolutely love and want to pursue, but then also making it into a career, and we all get uh, lost in the business side of things, right? And lose that passion for that, or you grind it out and you're working so many hours and you're not appreciated in your job, and um and it just becomes monotonous, right? And so it's always striving to find something new that you can learn, and really, uncuffing the handcuffs of society that we get through working W-2 jobs, right? So if you're able to find something that really works for you and that you can learn, real estate, investing in stocks, whatever it might be, um, then you're able to go out and travel the world and work from wherever you want, and really pursue those passions, whether it's design or something else, right?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I like how you brought up lifelong learning because I feel like society has taught us through history that you graduate college or school or high school or whatever you're doing, trade, and you're staying the same career your whole life until you retire, or if you can't retire, you still keep doing it,
Yeah.
and you're not understanding that you change through time. Personally, you change. Mentally, you change. Your life changes. You have family and passions change, and that's totally normal. And
Right.
that whole mindset of staying in the same career your whole life or staying in that same position your whole life is practically non-existent now.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. I think getting rid of that mindset is what needs to happen. It can be more normalized because a lot of companies aren't investing in, at least in corporate America, they're not investing in the from start entry level position to top of line. They're trying to hire outside people to get more people in there. So you don't want to waste your time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see safety in working for a company that has a steady paycheck, but at any point that can dissolve. I mean, you could be laid off and your industry might be changing and you're not going to be able to find another job. And so it's changing that mentality. I think for me was huge, was um going at it on my own, and making something happen, and changing the scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset, right?
I like that.
So we all want to just hold our money and save it and squirrel it away, but that's a detriment to yourself. The money, the movement of money is important because at the current rates that we're looking at, uh, you saving your money and not investing it is going to be devalued over the next 5 years because of inflation, right? So you need to keep up with inflation, and then also mm, your investments need to make money on top of that so that you can save for retirement,
Yeah.
right? And so that was a big switch for me, was just the movement from the corporate world into full-time real estate and investing and really trying to get smart about it. And I think it's done a world for our mindset, a world for our time, a world for spending time with our family and cherishing what we have, and really focusing on the better, always bettering ourselves, right?
It's always a work in progress.
Yeah,
You're not
exactly.
going to be stagnant your whole life.
Yeah.
Well, I want to finish on where people could follow you, websites, anything where they could either reach out to you or follow you along on your business journey.
Yeah, sure. So my investment company is called Pinnacle Community Capital Investments. Website is pin-cap.com. You can find me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Justin Abee. You can just search me out there, or you can find all my links on our website.
Awesome. Justin,
And
well,
if anybody is interested in learning more, I'm working on a course on passive investing, and I'm always happy to answer questions. My passion right now is helping people, in helping them grow their wealth and their stability in life, and feeling like um, they're not just going to get left out in the cold if they lose their job. So I'm always happy to help and answer any sort of questions anyone might have. So
awesome. Well, whenever you get that course up and running, let me know and we could do another episode. I'd love to talk more about that.
absolutely. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you again for hopping on.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate
Series
it.
and can't wait
Great
to.
conversation.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.